There we go.
SoccerChronicle.com informa Los Cachirules, el podcast con más garra, pasión y picardía que hasta el equipo de todos. Y ahora con ustedes, Los Cachirules.
No te detengas, tú serás el campeón.
Maybe not this time.
God, that sounds beautiful.
Copa MX, maybe?
Serás el chillón, I think, would be more appropriate. This is Los Cachirules, weekly podcast that discusses all things Liga MX. We have our talented crew of folks with us again today. We have all the way from Connecticut, we have Christian Velez. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. That's all I got.
That's it? You're just doing great? I understand. All right. Down in California, we have Daniel Preciado. Looking forward to seeing Uli Davila with Santos.
Yeah. Hey, John, gentlemen, Ronnie.
Somewhere in Los Angeles at an undisclosed location, we have Joel Aceves. How are you, sir?
Greetings, John. Enjoying the circus that is Chivas.
I enjoy every circus. I like circuses. Over in South Austin, we have Alberto Campa. How are you, sir?
Hey, doing good. Sodium levels are low. Glad to be here.
Well, it sounds like you need to eat more tacos, is what it sounds like to me. Up in Philadelphia, I'm sure been on the phone all day trying to figure out how I can go to catch his Cougars in the New Year's Day Bowl. Ronnie De Luna, how are you, sir?
Very salty. Extremely salty.
Maybe you can help Albert with the salt levels then. And I am John Jagu. It's good to have you with us. If you have any questions, we are live on YouTube, so if you have any comments, let us know, and we will answer your questions. But we're going to jump right in. Last night, Tigres completed the Clásico Universitario final that we haven't seen in 37 years by beating Toluca 2-0 with one of the prettiest counterattack goals I think a lot of us have seen in quite a while. Just a stunning piece of work. But I'm sure we'll talk about that game here in a second. We'll probably jump right into the two-legged semifinal between Pumas and America, which of course Pumas won 4-3 thanks to their first leg 3-0 whipping of America at the Estadio Azteca. And then they hang on for dear life, playing terribly at Seoul to lose 3-1 but take the tie 4-3. So, Ronnie, go for it. Wait, but before we start, though.
Argle bargle or foofara?
Go for it.
No, I'm going to hang on to the loser's line here, and I'm still pissed about the officiating. I'm still pissed, and people were talking about, like for example, Wemes. They're saying, well, he's the one that kicked into who was it, Cortez?
Yeah.
That he kicked into him and stuff like that. Even I know that's not the foot that got Cortez came in with cleats up on the foot that was being planted and stuff like that. Anywhere that's here in China that's a red card. So I mean my beef is not that it's he brought that injury upon himself because he came in there with swinging or kicking really hard and stuff like that.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Okay, so it wasn't as if Wemes had possession of the ball. The ball was in the middle of the pitch, and both players ran and met simultaneously, right? Are you agree?
No, I don't agree with that.
So the fact that the ball was 3 meters in front of Wemes.
No, Wemes got the...
They both ran. And Cortez does a great taponazo, hits the ball first. My question is, if the roles had been reversed, if it was Wemis that would have broken Javier Cortez's leg, would you feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean,
You
boots
would
up.
say he deserved a red card, absolutely.
Boots up, dude. I mean, his
He didn't come boots up stabbing into him though. He came sort of swiping from right to left.
No, boots. The boots up basically almost hit right below his knee.
Yeah, but they weren't coming
regardless of your team affiliation, you would have said that should have been a straight red. If Wemis said that was straight red, I cannot believe the refs didn't call it.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's not like I'm going to be bitching about that, but I mean, it's just the fact that the officiating had been so bad in the prior, then to this one, it's like not even for a yellow card. I mean, you're not even going to get a yellow card for this. I mean, okay, well, maybe it's not a red.
The way I saw it, and believe me, I'm trying to be as objective as possible. I'm trying to understand what the ref was seeing. What I saw was a 50-50 ball, players coming at the exact same moment. Now, granted, his cleats were up. I get that.
Let me ask you something. When do you ever go cleats up?
When do I go cleats up?
Yeah, when
I go cleats up all the time.
Cleat trying to block the ball that's coming to your side.
I mean, he blocked it with his butt.
No,
he did. The ball hit Javier Cortez in the back of his thigh first. That was the first contact with the ball. In fact, it was all ball. And Wemis swings and misses, hits him in the leg. That's where he breaks his leg, and after that is when the cleats go into the left leg of Wemis. All I'm saying is it's a spirit of the law letter. There's only one referee in the world that would have considered that a straight red, and that's Chiquimario. Every other ref would have said, hey, that is a simultaneous. They got there at the same time. Yeah, it was terrible for the guy. He broke his leg. But because of the fact they got at the same time, I'm not going to call anything. And that's the reality.
I disagree. I disagree wholeheartedly. I mean, you're setting.
And you would disagree if the roles had been reversed. You would be here telling us how awful it was that Wemis didn't get a red card.
Who is the most booked team this season?
America.
And for a lot less.
Well, you got Sambo, you got Goltz. Those guys are hotheads. They're notorious hotheads.
Those guys have a reputation.
The Sambo stomp. He stomped on that dude.
They're not the only ones, dude, in the league. They're not the only ones in the league.
No, you're right, but is there more?
I'll give you a perfect example. You know, back a couple years back, like Cuauhtemoc was playing, there, and Cardoso was playing in Toluca. Cardoso could get away with murder. He could get away with screaming at the refs. Blanco would just give him a little pout, and boom. So I mean, it's like sometimes officials, although they don't agree with it or they don't say it, they have it in for players. They have it in for certain players.
It's based on players' reputation. I mean, Ruben Sambuesa smacked a ref, so he's obviously going to have.
He headbutted that ref after the red card.
Yeah, exactly. So he's always going to have a short leash. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, the one thing about Sambuesa is that he always kind of trolls. Not kind of, he always trolls, and he's always playing on the edge. And it's beyond cynical simply because there are times when you can say, oh man, the ref messed that up or whatever, or he misread the intention of the play. But the fact that Sambuesa always acts incredulous after he's called out, I mean, it's a lot. It's just, I mean, and is there a more annoying player in the league than Michael Arroyo or Ruben Sambuesa? Those two guys, man.
Picolín.
Yeah, Picolín.
Okay, and that brings me to another point. So if you're gonna suspend Andrade for simulation, then why the hell aren't you gonna suspend Picolín for simulation? It doesn't matter. No.
He got a yellow card. What more do you want?
He got suspended. He could not play again. Was
it card accumulation?
That's a fair point. I'll concede that.
No, what I'm saying is, look, if Andrade got suspended a game after the game, he goes, why isn't Picolín, because that's what basically 2 games where he puts on an Oscar performance. Of simulating.
Well, you can say he exaggerated, but on the first, at least on the first leg, I know there was actual context, so there was an actual foul.
I'm not talking about the one with Oribe Peralta, the very first one where he reacts like an idiot. I'm talking. I think it was like the second or the third one where he basically, you thought that he was having a cardiac, arrest, like, oh Jesus, he's like having a seizure.
It's comical how he does it.
So I mean, I just like I said, it's just not those two plates. It's an abundance. It just.
I agree that they. I agree with you,
I'm-
Ronnie. Though, if they are going to be going after the fact and review tape and start handing out additional punishment, then I absolutely think they should probably revisit that as well.
It's either all or nothing. So I mean, if you're going to do that for simulation because they thought that Andrade was trying to get an advantage, whether it be a penalty or whether you're trying to get a player booked or thrown out, you're still trying to get an advantage that way somehow. It's either you're going to do it for all, or you're going to do it for none. And I think that's just I just think that throughout who I think it was the news the telecast for Univision, I think it was the guy Barry.
As a tool.
I know, but even I mean he was even he even said something about the officiating, excuse me, for in the Veracruz and the in the America game for Pumas is saying that hey, you can't play like this in the final.
Okay, that's a fair point, but the Univision guys are always. It sometimes seems like the officiating takes precedence over the play on the field. Even I know we're going to get into the next game at some point, but you saw a lot of it last night during the Toluca Tigres game. Any little play, they were immediately calling, that's a red, that's a yellow. It's like, hold on, let's see the replay first. Let's see how this plays out. Let's not start conditioning the audience to think that any contact should merit a card or a yellow or a red, or start implying that the refs are stupid or bought or whatever. So, but I mean, you do make a good point. And before we get too deep into the ref, stuff, which unfortunately or fortunately for some of us has played a big part in this series with Pumas and America, I just want to point out that most of us thought that America would be going through, and only John and Beto saw Pumas going through, and I think that, for me, the 3-0 at Azteca was a big surprise. I didn't expect that result, and unfortunately for America, that ended up conditioning the second game because Pumas didn't really have much to do other than defend, and then forced America to come out and really have to be very, very proactive and take risks that they shouldn't have taken had they handled the first game at least a little bit better.
Going back to that first game, though, if you recall, the very first goal that for Pumas scored was off a foul that they should have been called in the like in the half. I think it was Sambu that ended up going on to the goal. The second two, the last two goals, that's not on the ref. That's on Ambris. But
yeah, I agree. But you know what? If the ref is
and what really and what was pissing me off was that you could hack some boys, so you were hacking some of these players from America, and then on the other side, it's like you would breathe on them and shit, boom, restart a play or a card here, and I'm like,
I think that's an exaggeration, though. There's bad calls on both sides.
I agree.
Look at the Twitter. Look at the
Ronnie. I looked at both legs. I saw both matches, and there wasn't. I personally didn't think there was an overwhelming, obvious favoritism toward one team or another. I think belaboring the point of the officiating. I mean, granted, I'm not going to say they did a great job or a bad job, but that aside, though, I think you have to put most of the blame on the loss on Ambris. Not starting Benedetto at home when you're obligated to win, waiting till the second leg to do it is kind of like too little too late. Like Christian had said, you're already going into that second leg with a 3-0 lead. Usually that's when you expect the home team to have to risk more. Pumas didn't have to do that, and even still, they still had a chance to still to progress because of Pumas.
They played terrible. It was the worst game they played all year.
They played. It was way too conservative, starting with three holding mids.
They just never played like that before. They were completely out of their element, and then on top of it, they just didn't play very well. I mean, they played terribly.
Yeah, they did.
And just to finish the point, though, I think Ambris really screwed up in the first leg. But their players in both legs really let them down with their inability to keep a calm head.
I think that's an
But
excellent
but
point.
but hold on,
Cost them more than anything.
No, Dan's got a great point there. You don't end up the semifinal series with 4 red cards. That's,
no, I understand that. But why the hell?
that's
But
not good.
like there's that play where Mickey Arroyo was going to take a corner. The guy stepped on him. He retaliated. He did the same thing. But he only booked Arroyo, and he didn't book the Pumas player.
Well, Arroyo,
So I'm
Arroyo
saying-
is, he's a man child. He's always he's a punk.
What I'm saying,
He's a
there
punk.
were similar offenses. There were throughout both legs. Similar offenses where they could have where players from UNAM should have been sent off, but were not sent off.
Okay,
So, I mean,
fair enough. Fair enough.
And
but
I don't care. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you've played that game. If you've played the game, any game, and you know that the officiating, if you perceive the officiating to be one side or the officiating is not calling the same, it's just natural for you to take things into your own hands.
Sure. But maybe at a lower level.
But that's like the stupidest thing you can do.
It is the stupidest things. But even legends like Zidane did it in a World Cup final.
No, fair enough.
It happens. It happens.
Well,
For me, go on.
Well, I was just gonna say real quick. I think also the reputation that America's had this whole season, especially Goltz. Goltz has missed, I think, games during the regular season for being booked.
I'm lucky out as well.
Now, how many of these?
You want to say the ref is biased in any situation? And then that. I mean,
Listen, for me, it simply boils down to the fact that at least in the first game, you can the first goal, you can make an argument that it was a bad call from the ref. That's where the goal came from. But the other 2 goals were simply down to a lack of organization from the Americas, from their back line. And even in the return leg, it was they looked sloppy at times, and they just kind of like, if anything, I said last week that one of the things I liked about this team so far, this America team, is that it looked a little more balanced under Ambriz compared to like Matosas and even Turco. That went out the window. They threw out their season in chunks of 15, 20 minutes in both games, and that's really what it came down to, just a really disorganized defense and players in very important positions that were not able to keep their cool. I think that's what it comes down to, because we can talk about the ref.
The biggest mistake, period, was when they went down to 9 and they kept attacking. Period. End of story.
In the first game.
Because Pumas has a counter. Yeah, it was. That's the mistake. Just
absolutely.
When you go down the 9, it's 1-0.
Yeah, complete lack of foresight. Because at that point, take it on the chin, clamp down, go into Seoul. If you gotta make up 2 goals, that's one thing. If you gotta come back from 3-0, that's a little tougher. That's a lot tougher.
All right. Before we continue talking about the screen, we do want to introduce the guy who's going to be the biggest Pumas fan you've ever seen in your life this week, and that's Fernando Regino in Arizona.
Hey, thank you, John,
Desde la
for that introduction.
He's a huge Pumas fan. He's, he named one of his kids Gaviño. So anyway, all right. As you were saying, Christian.
No, you know what? I mean, the ref is a ref, and I think that's an issue all to itself. But I mean, if you look at the two games, a lot of the mistakes that America made were mistakes that they had been making, maybe not to such a degree as they did in these 2 games, but that lack of concentration and the players losing their cool so quickly, that speaks to a lack of authority from the coach. And this, I agree with all of you, this falls squarely on the shoulders of Ambriz, because you go into halftime, you say, okay, guys, come on. We're not. I mean, it's one thing to lose the game because your team is better, but when you literally shoot yourself in the foot, that's going to taste even worse.
And the reality is America is the better team. I mean, they're much better offensively, as they showed in the second game. And like you said, just the fact that. And another thing I didn't understand also, but hang on, I'll get right to you.
So go ahead.
Pumas is terrible with the ball. They're just not. I mean, then they showed it in the game. So. Knowing that, it seemed like, if Nacho would have just sat back in the first one and let Pumas make the stupid mistake, which they would, they will make. It just seemed like the game it could have gone different for him, but it didn't.
It played right into Memo's hands, really. The setup that America put out. It became predictable after the first half in the first game. Like if America didn't tie down in the defense and sort of settle down, they were going to simply give up more goals, and unfortunately that's exactly what happened. So that's why I understand that the ref is a big part of this. At least to a degree. I still think that overall this was simply a self-inflicted wound on the part of America.
Yeah.
Remember
ahead,
when Sambu got booked or ejected? I don't know if you guys can check the replay on your phones and stuff like that, but just pay attention to this. When he steps on the player, the ref is there, and he's looking straight up. I forget who the player was on the floor for Pumas. Sosa. Okay. He's looking straight up. And the player didn't think much of it for Unam Sosa. So, but when the ref pulls out the red, he starts to act that he's in pain.
Yep.
Watch that. What's that?
Of course
he starts to act in fucking pain, and I'm thinking, I don't.
That's gamesmanship, man. That's just. That's smart.
No, I'm just saying. At that point I started laughing. I said, "This is fucking comical." I said, "That's how fucking bad it is."
The point is, the point about that whole play
was comical was the fact that he didn't try to stomp on him like accidentally once. He took multiple whacks at him. Like he tried to stomp on him like 4 different times. I think. You really are asking for it at that point.
And we talked about this because Sambu has a tendency of basically being to keeping the ball and having people hack at him. He was getting hacked. He was getting hacked.
How could he hack him when he was on his back?
No. Sambu was up.
I know, but the guy was on his back. How was he?
But the guys he would get hacked and they would get carded. So I don't understand.
But he wasn't getting carded. But I just thought that was
he wasn't getting carded. The players that were hacking him weren't.
Not throughout the entire series, they weren't.
Are you kidding me? Pumas had like 13 yellow cards combined.
No,
in both games.
No.
I just look at the stats.
No.
Look at the stats.
I know they were in good book, but there's no double bookings. There were no red cards, and that's very odd. That is extremely odd for a team that bonkers who are more predisposed at defending. Because when you're defending, you're basically gonna meter la pata. You're gonna basically stick the foot out there, and that to me is very odd.
Hey man, Pumas played the psychological game. They trolled the ref.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the America players. They trolled America because they knew they were hotheads.
And they trolled
their game.
And what to me is sweet. Is kind of sweet. Well, aside from the fact that basically Twitter turned on Unam after the game.
Of course.
Heaven forbid.
Puros Americanistas are.
No. No, I'm not talking about Americanistas. I'm talking about even their own the dean of Unam basically trolling Pumas.
That was not. That's a fake Twitter account. I think the dean does not have an official Twitter account.
Made by Americanista, of course.
So you just got double trolled.
Are you sure on that one?
I will say about the Pumas win and the Pumas pass to the finals. It's not the way I would like for them to go.
But hey, even if that guy wasn't a real account, I'm saying there's other high profiled people.
So what terrible thing did they do in this game for them? I mean, attacking
terrible team was winning.
No,
criticizing how they played, criticizing how they advanced. Obviously, criticizing. Even medio tiempo in Fútbol Total and I think it was Record. We're talking about that at the press conference. It didn't even feel like Pumas had advanced, but on the tone of.
I have the quote right here.
Estamos en otro momento, en otra etapa. Así se juegan las liguillas. No te gusta, está bien. Yo sigo pensando que el equipo hizo lo que tenía que hacer para sacar el resultado. Nada más.
That's exactly it.
No. Ok, porque ni el América se presentó. El equipo hizo lo que tenía que hacer. Hubiéramos querido que las cosas salieran de otra forma, no recibir ningún gol y hacer todo lo que ustedes dicen. La realidad es otra. Ok, se pasó a la final. Ya veremos qué hacemos y contra quién.
That is the ultimate
No,
truth.
no. Did you get the part where he's talking he's telling the referee, why do you have to be so negative? Why do you have to be so negative?
Telling the ref?
No.
Hey, I
not the
slammed
ref.
this together. I didn't get it.
Okay, well, if you watch it, and I could probably put it on the Twitter, he's basically starts bitching about. It's like, why do you have to be so negative?
Because in Mexico, you're not allowed to win like that. If you're going to win, you have to win with.
No.
That's true. It's true. It's true.
No.
You see with the national team all the time.
I know that, but the way Vasquez won yesterday, dude, come on. Is that really worthy of a finalist?
It wasn't nice. It wasn't nice, but it worked.
Hey man, they played their worst game of the season and still.
No, the entire playoff.
That is commendable. That is a winning mentality. You know what? I am formally declaring myself a Pumas fan right now.
You are supporting Greece.
Forget it.
That's like Greece. That's worse than Greece in New York.
Hey, Chihuahua!
All right, now.
By the way, there was a total of 8 yellow cards for Pumas.
A total of
8 legs. Total of 8.
8, and how many red cards?
4.
So none of you guys think that Pumas deserved a couple red cards. None of you guys.
What?
Well, I don't know if they deserved them, but they managed themselves very well, so they didn't get them. I think that's a key point. You got to know how to do it. You got to know how to go about, and you don't take the same player doesn't foul the same player. You take your turns, you slow down the play, and you bring him. You bring out the worst in the opposing team. And with America, it's really not that hard.
Fouling a player in front of the ref, and then the America player retaliates, and he gets a card for doing the same thing, or basically breaking a player's tibia. Come on, man.
Well, is Pumas good enough to beat America man for man?
Boots up, dude.
Pumas isn't the team that America is. They had to resort to
cleats up. Cleats up is a red card here and in China. End of story. Cleats up.
But do you think that would have changed the game?
What's that?
Would that have changed the game?
Well, no, that's no guarantee. But basically, I mean, it kind of like psychologically, you're gonna the fact that the players were pissed off at the officiating the first game, and then come into the second game within the first 15 minutes.
That's their own fault. You know that the refs are going to make decisions. You can't let it affect you. You just can't.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not like
a final,
taking goals.
These guys live off of this, dude. It's personal.
I understand, but it's not like they took 3 goals away from America. I mean, you're talking about stuff that happens in the normal flow of any game.
But
come on, it was just so evident.
It was.
It was evident to you. I don't see anybody else that was thinking it was that egregious.
No, I agree, man.
And the big tackle play where the guy broke his leg, he did hit him with his cleats, but that's not what his intent was. His intent was to get the ball.
It doesn't matter.
Straight reds where they just come into the dude one end or the other. You're right. It doesn't matter. That's what I'm talking about.
Intent. It doesn't matter.
Intent
doesn't matter. It's a foul.
I understand, but it's a spirit of the law, letter of the law.
Clearly, the referee didn't see it, but you think he clearly
said the letter of the law says I need to give him a red card. But watching it was happen right in front of me. I saw 2 guys go after a ball that was up for grabs, and that's what happened.
You guys want to know what matters?
Period.
What matters is what the ref said. The ref said it was not a foul. It was, maybe it was yellow cardy, but you know what? Card worthy, but you know what? The ref. That's what matters in the end. The ref did a good job.
Well, Luis Montes broke his leg. It was the exact same kind of play.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. That's an identical.
In fact, on the Luis Montes play, it was his foul.
Yeah, he committed a foul on Castillo and ended up. I think they both broke their legs. Now, I think if I was an America fan, I wouldn't be so pissed at the ref. I would be really upset with the front office with the fact that they have not been able to go out and get some decent center backs, and they keep relying on these really, really strange players like Pablo Aguilar.
What are you talking about? They have a starting U.S. national team.
I mean, for Christ's
sake. How does that make you feel, Ronnie?
Yeah, man.
That the best y'all can do is a starting U.S. national team center back.
That should give you cause for sodium, man.
But and here's another thing. and you guys are crazy if you guys don't admit this. For years, referees were always afraid to officiate games, and I know this because I've heard past referees after their careers even mention this, is that they were always kind of afraid. Not afraid, but they were always cautious officiating games with America because they did not want to perceive like they were favoring America. And honestly, right now, we don't have an Archundia, we don't have a Chiquis, we don't have guys that have World Cup experience and stuff like that. So a bunch of these guys. What's that?
That's what happens when you're playing the company team.
Well, no.
Hey.
That's what happens when people already have a predisposed position that the next team gets favored. Because I mean, you do have officials that have gone, on record and say, after their playing careers, is that they were always very cautious.
That's all part of the Odiame Mas. It was like even the refs against us, we beat your ass. Odiame Mas. That's just part of the deal.
So I just, I think you guys, I mean, right now, like when that final where Chiqui Marcos basically threw out, what is it, 9 players or 3 players for what is it, Monterrey?
Monterrey. And a yellow for you.
Yeah, he basically threw out what?
Could you imagine if he had a third yellow?
What's that?
Imagine if you would have had a third yellow in that game.
Yes, Cortez should have had one. That would have been the third one.
Well, like yesterday, I got the email from the supporters club, and I sent in my money. GoFundMe to pay off the ref, and then look what happened. We're in the final.
Money well spent.
All right, so let's move on. We'll talk about the second game. Joel, did you want to interject before we start?
No, I didn't see the game.
You didn't? You missed a. It was. I honestly thought America was. I thought I was going to have to spend today just
reading Ronnie's reactions.
Yeah, exactly.
On Twitter, we're funny enough.
all day long, because I really thought America was going to do it. I really did. And if they would have had the 11 guys, chances are pretty good they probably would have. But alas, we'll never know. Very unfortunate. All right, so let's move on to the second game. I don't think anybody was really surprised with how the second game turned out. I just don't see Toluca as having, well, certainly not the offense that Tigres or America have by any stretch. And it was going to be, to me, it was only a matter of
By the way,
kind of hard to
hold on. One thing, I'm not rooting for Vasquez. I want him to lose now, so I'm rooting for the foreign coach now. Fuck Vasquez. Oh, sorry. Beep.
Oh, so now Tuca's a foreign coach? I thought he was.
No, I'm going for that. I'm going for Tuca now.
Well, to me, it's a win-win for me because obviously if Pumas wins, I'd be happy. But if they lose, I'd be very happy for Tuca. He's one of my guys. So.
Well, specifically with the Toluca game, I think that this is the farthest that Cardoso has ever gone. He never gets to the final. He always gets to the semifinals. And the game in Monterrey was a great example of bunkering. Toluca did a very good job sitting back and really just not allowing Tigres to play. The second game almost played out the same way until the last 30 minutes, despite the fact that Tigres really had the initiative the entire game. But it was like, the thing is, like, every attack was literally the same for Tigres. Aquino or Jurgen Damm would get to the byline and just pump a cross in, and there was just a scramble, and they wouldn't go in. Talavera picks it up, and they restart again. And then in one of the less stellar plays, it actually went in. And after that, Toluca simply just crumbled, and that was really the end of it. They put up a fight, so to speak, but that was Tigres' series all along, and they ended up taking it. And I mean, it was justice.
Yeah, no, it was good, and I agree. And that second goal, that counterattack, I mean, I think there were like 4 or 5 of us that were watching, and we all had the same reactions. Like, wow, that was
great.
That was the nicest goal.
It was a nice goal. It's a perfect. It was a perfect example of what money can buy. A very nice goal, definitely.
Yeah, it all. I think I counted the minute they did get it. Actually, it took them 8 touches, including the last one to get that in the net. 8. They went 100 yards and 8 touches. It's just
and each touch was just perfect.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah,
it was just that was just like, I mean, yeah, you see the counterattacks eventually like work themselves out and they'll get a goal out of it, but for every pass to be so spot on.
Those type of goals, believe it or not, are some of my favorite goals, dude. It's just when it's like almost, when you center the ball and the guy's just there by himself and he just, lays out, palomita or whatever.
Well, the Gignac pass to push him
pass
through,
was,
gorgeous.
It was.
That toe poke forced it, like, just pushed the defense away from the ball, and it left Chilindrina completely by himself.
No, it was really just the guy who was being unselfish. Who was it, Guerron?
Yeah.
That was and he unselfishly found Gignac, and Gignac touched once. Am I going to shoot him? Oh, look at that guy! And he just
no. You know what? I'm sorry. I think that was Dueñas.
Yeah, the one Guerron hadn't gone in yet.
Yeah, it was just no. Guerron was playing. He was playing.
No, he was about to come in.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, I think he hadn't come in yet. So now we have a Pumas Tigres final, which I think it's going to play out. It's going to play out similar to Luka game. I think Pumas is much better at holding it down and defending, but I don't have a favorite, to be honest. I thought America was going to take it over Pumas, and here we are.
I think they both have similar
levels.
I have a favorite. I have Tuca.
I think Tigres has more talent. I mean, they're both going to play. Let's face it, they're going to play the same because it's the same. They come from the same school, so they're going to play a very similar game. So I think it just
conservative, but not really kind of thing. Looking for counters. There'll be batches of possession for both teams. I don't expect
it. Okay, but we're not going to force them to go get it.
I don't expect a super thrilling final, to be honest. But I wouldn't be surprised if Pumas or Tigres end up scoring a bunch of goals anyway. So, or both.
The only what really represents this match, really, this series, is can you win a championship with homegrown players or good enough players, or you can buy a championship with Tigres.
Yeah,
that's really what it's coming down to.
Their team too, so that's not really a good comparison.
So, the only thing that I can see this favoring or like going, into Tigres' favor is by tomorrow. The commission comes in and bans Cortés and or suspends Cortés and suspends Darío Verón. That's the only way I can see them.
It's not going to happen.
Wait. Why are they going to ban Verón?
Apparently, I think they're supposed to have some sort of saying tomorrow.
What about?
Because they already sent in the video, and they sent in the report that they want basically Cortés to sit out, get suspend him for the foul on
wait, because
there was no foul there. There was no call.
It's a foul. It's a foul.
You need to come out. No, you need to come out and complain about Peláez.
Stop the play. There was no foul.
You need to complain about Peláez. You need to complain about
Wait, so let me get this straight, Ronnie.
Yeah.
America actually submitted a complaint to the FMF because what? Why did they do that?
Because the injury that Güemes sustained, they felt that the player, Cortés came in there, cleats up, hose down, a type of mentality,
Wow, no saben perder. Oh my God, I can't believe they're doing that.
So
it's like a woman scoring.
And then and also Verón, which we should start probably talking about Verón now.
Okay, I want to bring up this old thread, and I posted it on the Twitter.
Okay.
The same exact discussion, but back when Quintero was at Santos.
Yeah.
And back then, Ronnie, you said that it should stay on the field, and they shouldn't bring it up. But that's exactly what Quintero didn't do. Moises Muñoz did, and Peláez even supported him and everything. And of course, they're going to the disciplinary committee. Do you agree with that, though?
Play the clip first.
I don't have.
No, he does. Chiquis does.
Metía 3 juegos a Darwin Quintero por el cabezazo y 3 por chismoso.
That's great.
So Moises Munoz is the chismoso this time.
Well, not really.
Call him
Not
out.
really. No, not Moy. It's actually
What do you mean?
No, because here's the thing. Apparently Moy didn't hear this.
So he has no idea if it happened or not.
Chismeando.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't.
Well, clearly he believes him.
Well,
I mean, he's going up on the podium and condemning it.
So apparently Moy didn't do it. He just basically, as the captain, the team captain, he's basically saying, okay, look, this is what happened.
Oh, so it's a team captain. It's okay for him to be a chismoso.
No, it should go back to Darwin.
You know what? No, I said it right before we went on air. I said it that if this thing with Darwin gets any traction is because he's at America now. This wouldn't be a problem. Not a problem, but it wouldn't be getting the kind of airplay it's getting if he was at another team. This is happening because it's happening because America is having a hard time dealing with the fact they lost the series.
No, hey, hold on. Keep in mind that when America played Toluca, the whole they were also chanting, Simio to Darwin. So
well, now that's different. That's different. When the crowd does it, I have a big problem with that. But whatever happens on the field.
Yes.
Happens on.
We talked about this, Ronnie. Remember?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure
it's not like this happens every day because it's not like we have a lot of black players in the Mexican League anyway.
Ah, the new losers lifeline.
Well, there actually is a lot.
Yeah, but Ronnie, they've been playing there. Since the 50s or 60s. It shouldn't even be an issue.
I know. I'm not. My beef isn't the senior comment.
That's not your beef. That should be your beef.
Your beef should be that they're complaining about it.
Your beef is that America lost, right?
No.
Yeah.
I'm not. I mean, my beef, like I said, it should stay on the field.
Between the players, I kind of agree with you, but at the same time, it all just unfortunately has an aftertaste of sour grapes. Whether or not that's the intention, it just to talk about the ref and to talk about the monkey chants. It's like, let's talk about those scrubs you got on the back line. Man. Scrubs.
Keep in mind here that Dario Verón said
Scrubs.
Dario Verón said that Quinteros, just America, they just don't know how to, they're bad losers, sore losers. Well, keep in mind that when this first came out with Darwin Quinteros, when he was at Santos, and this happened between the Santos and Cruz Azul, Santos was winning. In fact, they were winning. They were handing Cruz Azul, a pretty good ass whooping. So, he was just rubbing it into the Cruz Azul player. The Cruz Azul player reacted, and basically called him a simio de mierda, and boom, he, threw an elbow.
You just had to bring that up again. Huh? Nice, good job.
Come on, I'm trying to report here. Trying to report. So,
he's trying to be objective. Come on.
Trying to be objective.
So what's your?
So I'm just saying that.
Point?
So I'm saying that Verón doesn't have. If he's going to say that, it's just they're just sore losers for bringing this up. I said no, because Darwin Quinteros brought that up. Brought that up when they were winning. So I mean, whether they're winning or losing, that Quinteros was going to brings that up.
I just want to make sure I think you guys are being awfully naive if you guys really think that anything goes on the field and that you could say whatever you want and just expect that your counterpart's just going to drop it at the end of the game. I think it's incredibly naive in this day and age to think that you can get that. You think that you're going to say something like that and think that you're going to get away with it. I mean, I'm not saying that you should or shouldn't. I'm not here to judge right or wrong, but it's naive to think that something negative can't come out of it.
Well,
I think it's really.
I agree with you actually. Yes, right now, people are focusing everything with HD cameras. They can read your lips. They can see everything. The thing is, though, nobody has caught any video of Dario Verón calling him simio, at least that I know of. Nobody has put it on the news, anything. It's just hearsay at this point. And it sounds more like sour grapes. America lost. Darwin Quinteros pissed off.
Well, regardless of whether he said it or not, but I guess my problem with this whole thing is I mean, I'm sure Darwin Quintero has called guys, pinche indio de mierda, whatever, as well. So,
Well, we can't say that he has done that. I think it's safe to say that he's maybe talked a lot and goaded people, but we can't just speculate and say that he's gone and racially started poking at people also because that's what
we can absolutely do that. There's no question. It's a lie.
I think
Trump said it was okay to do. I'm just kidding.
Hey, all right, guys. All right, hey, I'm gonna go down the line. Okay, John.
Yes.
Would you ever say that in the field?
Me personally, no.
Okay,
but that's
Christian.
because that's not.
No, but I've had it happen to me, and it definitely throws you off.
Okay.
It definitely throws you off. Yeah.
Juan.
Juan's not here.
Oh, Juan's not here. Okay. Pern or Fernando.
I'll definitely do it. Whatever it takes to get an edge, it doesn't matter what it is. I'll do it.
Damn.
You are a ruthless mercenary.
Joel, would you do it?
Yes, I would. While elbowing him at the same time.
Lovely.
So Christian's a no, right?
Yep. I mean,
Dan,
no, I wouldn't.
Dan, you're a no or a yes?
Resounding no.
Okay. Me, I would even go. I would do it. Yeah. We
But
remember
that you would do it to anybody. It wouldn't matter, dude. Like if he's a.
No, I've said this before. Like back in the forums and stuff like that. Dude, when we played ball, sometimes we would play, other teams from predominantly black, neighborhoods or predominantly black, Hispanic, schools and stuff like that, and there's a lot of shit talking, and if you're gonna do it,
I don't believe it, man.
What's that?
I don't believe that.
We don't believe in that, or you don't believe that happens?
I don't believe you've said the same type of comments.
You don't know me then.
Butt kicked.
You don't know me, dude.
There's so many ways to get in guys' heads. That's just my thing. Usually I would let my play do the talking.
I'm with you, John. I think there's other ways of getting underneath the skin. Personally, I guess I'm opposed to making comments like that, so I guess that's the simple reason why I wouldn't go there. Not that because I'm above trying to antagonize my opponent. I absolutely am in favor of doing almost whatever it takes to get under someone's skin to get the win. But there's just certain areas that I think are pretty cheap to go at, and I just personally wouldn't go there.
How do you feel about your mama jokes?
Dan, that's because you play co-ed. with orange wedges at halftime.
I've never played. I played baseball, football, and basketball. I never played footy, actually.
What?
Yeah, true. I didn't start watching this till well after I graduated high school.
Come to Arizona, and I'll put you in my indoor soccer team.
I grew up in the deep South, not Texas or Houston, which I don't consider the South. Just like Catracho said, the deep
That
South.
is the South.
If you said, like for example, the N-word to somebody, you would, and this is not like a professional league where money's on the line, and Quintero, doesn't want to risk fines or whatever and punch the dude or fight the dude. On the street, you're not gonna do that and not get your butt kicked.
Absolutely.
You know what? I'm not here to justify what I do in the field or not, but I will tell you, I am very competitive when it comes to the field. I want to win no matter what, and if I know there is something that will get under your skin and give me an advantage, I will do it. I don't care if it's slapping you in the balls or whatever. That's just the way I am. That's.
Speaking of balls,
how do you play checkers?
That happens a lot, dude.
Mascherano's the pro at that, man.
How do I play checkers?
Yeah, ruthless mercenary checkers. I'll do whatever it takes for you to king me.
No, I will just. I don't know. Actually, every time I play, I always lose. But
or what about when you play Go Fish?
You know what was one of the funniest things, growing up, and because I grew up when basketball was like, really international, I always remembered, always reading and hearing about Bill Laimbeer and hearing about Larry Bird, how that, they were some of the biggest trash talkers in the game. And it's funny because, John Stockton, Larry Bird, and Bill Laimbeer, you guys know who Bill Laimbeer is, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. And it's just, it was just always funny how the guys that you would think were not the biggest trash talkers, their rivals would always say, no, these guys, do a lot of trash talking on the. And I don't know. I see nothing wrong with it. I really don't.
I think that's fair. I think go into your next game, do the same thing, and make sure that there's plenty of whoever it is that you're trying to poke at. Make sure there's plenty of representatives of them, and then see what happens. That's my whole thing. Like you could. I'm not judging you guys for willing to do that, go there, but just deal with whatever comes at you.
Of course.
I don't think those NBA players went to that level. I mean, they'd talk trash about dunking on one another or dropping a 3-pointer on each other.
Yeah, what are they gonna say?
Corny 80s jokes, man.
What are they gonna say? Oh, white man can't jump or what?
No, that wasn't.
That came out in '92, Pern.
Boring.
All right, what's the next topic now?
What else we got?
There?
Open.
Talk about Mexicans abroad.
Dude, open forum.
Open forum.
Wait, you guys are missing Chivas, dude.
Oh, hey, that's it.
We can talk about transfers.
Transfers? You're talking about like you guys are getting now Gulit Piña. That's a pretty impressive signing.
Hey, question. I got a question. I got another question. Who thinks that what's his name? Compian's going to become the new CONCACAF president?
He already got denied.
No, he didn't.
Bylaws,
today they announced there's not gonna be a president until May of next year when they're gonna do a round of votes.
Yeah, what a show.
Right now it's being handled by sort of a committee, and I think the reason why that is because there's probably gonna be a couple more dudes that are gonna fall from this whole FIFA thing that are already within the spectrum of the people that are running CONCACAF right now. So I think it'd be they're trying to save themselves the embarrassment of naming somebody a president when in 4 to 5 months' time they're probably going to have to drop out and go into hiding simply because...
Compian's not going to get indicted. He's just not.
No, I'm not saying Compian is, but given the democratic nature, quote-unquote, of the voting process in CONCACAF and really all throughout FIFA, I'm not entirely sure that a Mexican will be able to win over the Caribbean, and I think that's where the key is. You have to win the Caribbean vote in order to become president. I'm not sure Compian has it in him to do it, and not because it's him.
The
simply
Caribbeans
because
voted Sunil Gulati into the Exco.
What are the benefits, though, of having a Mexican?
I'm not entirely sure there are any, to be honest.
Because they seem to be doing just fine.
No, we're not going to be forced to take under 23 to Copa America. That's one.
Well, that's not going to happen.
That's true.
That's never going to happen again. That's never going to happen again. They're never going to force Mexico to take an under 23 team to the Copa America again. That's never going to happen.
Mexico should have taken an 23 team to the Copa America.
I disagree with that completely.
I mean, could a Compian remove the second? Remove the importance of that what used to be a throwaway Gold Cup, so that they can concentrate on the Copa America or things of that nature. Could he really actually just?
You know what? I don't see that. I don't see that happening.
Hey!
He makes too much money. You have to remember who he works for.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep in mind,
in the Gold Cup, and was a big part of that.
One thing. In fact, I'll post it later. But Blazer. Back in 2012, he point blank said it that Televisa and Compian were the ones that basically put pressure and basically ousted him. And he went into detail as to why is because they were pissed off that that they had to send the under 20 the Olympic team to Copa America.
And that's a legitimate gripe, to be honest. That's a legitimate gripe. But even then, I feel if anything brought him down was the fact that Chuck Blazer never paid taxes in over 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're making that kind of money, if you really think the IRS isn't going to come snooping at some point, then you're...
Well, no, they weren't going to come snooping. They weren't going to come snooping. Basically, what happens when this all came down because of the geopolitical thing with Russia and Qatar and stuff like that, with Britain and the United States being pissed off that they lost their bids. So obviously they're trying to play geopolitical games, because I mean this has been going on for 20 years. You know.
Just
So,
to sum it up, it's
really,
our grapes, just like America. They lost.
Yeah.
It's lost. Same thing.
Pinche Pern.
Now, my question is, in this whole thing, is that
you get a back a jock itch, Pern.
It's pretty obvious that Blazer. It was pretty obvious that Blazer's the one who blabbed, and that's where they got all their information, or at least he started the dominoes.
Yeah, he got the domino.
They got more people to start blabbing. Okay.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah,
but
There's
that's
gonna be
why
retaliation.
he blabbed only specific people to keep the Americans in power. Look, because for a fact, there has to be, like, there's no way Sunil Gulati was, he was not involved in this whole scheme, 10%, whatever crap that he was doing. There's no way that he couldn't have been involved, but, he did it strategically.
I don't know if he was involved or not, but he turned a blind eye to it. That's for sure.
Absolutely. There's no way that he was in. He was next to Chuck Blazer for a long time. It's kind of impossible to believe that he didn't know some of this stuff was going on. He didn't have to partake in it, but it's hard to believe he didn't know at least some of it was going on. I mean, I think for me the bigger question is: did Chuck Blazer, did he have any positive effect as the head of CONCACAF? No. Financially speaking, you can say maybe. I'm not sure you can say that on when it comes to the quality.
Pocket, yeah, but if you look at all the minnows, no, not really. We were just talking about how El Salvador was barely making it out there, So no, it hasn't helped the region. It helped his pockets. Now that's the thing. Yes, you guys are right. He turned a blind eye. That's being complicit. That right there makes him guilty, just by that alone.
All right. So my question again. Is there going to be retaliation by CONMEBOL and CONCACAF toward the U.S.?
I doubt it. I doubt it. It would be too obvious. It would be way too obvious. And if anything, it's not in their interest to really sort of go against the U.S. right now. Because, people talk about what role does the State Department have in this, and why are they going after people in countries that are where their jurisdiction maybe doesn't reach? Obviously, the point of this is the fact that a lot of these people used American banks for their transactions. So that's what opens the door for this. There could be something beneficial coming out of this in the long term, but at least in the short term, it's going to be chaos within the region. Obviously, in CONMEBOL, and don't be surprised if you see some things happening in UEFA as well. I mean, I think that the whole thing with the UEFA Nations League being created to sort of rival or overshadow the World Cup and subsequently the European Championship, that is a problem because it's a tournament that's designed to minimize. They're already looking to minimize all the FIFA dates, so we're looking to see less and less friendlies, which is both good and bad. But at least for us on this side of the continent. People talk about partidos moleros and whatever, but these are the games that sort of finance a lot of the stuff that's been happening with the youth national teams and even the women's teams. So I wouldn't want to see us lose out on that simply because UEFA wants to have a bigger role in whatever they conceive to be international football. Club-wise, yes, the cream of the crop is in Europe. Internationally speaking, I don't think that's true. And I want to maintain the things that we have right now. And, the only way you could rival that maybe would be with a joint sort of Copa America like what we're doing next year. I don't think that's going to be a long-term thing. I think it's going to be a one-off. I don't know. Maybe if the money from the sponsors is really, really good, we could see this happening again. But I have my doubts. I really do have my doubts because South America likes what they have. They have a 10-team tournament. They added 2 teams as guests. There's a lot of history there. They're not going to want to throw that away over money, I would think. And that's me optimistic.
That was one of the concerns going back to Libertadores. And and they ended up allowing more Mexican teams because at one point it was just 2.
Well, keep in mind they also like Sudamericana, the Mexican participations, and going back to what would be the benefit of having a Mexican president in CONCACAF. I'm actually looking here at the article. It was actually Fernando Schwartz who interviewed Blazer. He even says that dijo el premio de Copa Oro es más chico, la realidad. All right, yeah. He's basically saying that Mexico makes more in Copa America than they do in the Gold Cup. And that was one of the problems that Justino Compián had. So basically, Conmebol, Televisa, and Compián were trying to get Mexico to go in with their full team, and they said no. So I think that the fact that with all this going down, there's going to be a lot more measures. There's going to be a lot more internal controls with transparency. And I think it's going to be harder. I think it's going to be harder for the Caribbean teams to basically launder money and stuff like that. I think that Mexico, if they were to get a president, the CONCACAF were to get a president, I think this time around, I think they would know their place, as before, where they did, they just thought that hey, we're there to serve them. Because if all these new transparency measures are going to kick in, they're supposed to kick in, where television rights and marketing rights are supposed to be transparent, and there's when you're bidding for jobs, the government here in the U.S. you're supposed to bid out for these RFPs or requests for proposals, and the companies that want to do this, they basically have to say, okay, I'm going to do it for this much or this much and this much. So I think that. It's going to be a little harder for the Caribbean teams, and I think they're going to want to play along and be on Mexico's good side.
Well, I guess it's just going to matter on are they willing to make money the right way, or would they prefer to make money the wrong way?
I agree with
either way they're going to make money.
Yeah, I agree with Christian. You know what? There is answering John's question earlier about if there's going to be any retaliation. There's not, because they're in this business for the money, and doing any retaliation, they're not gonna make money. They need the U.S. to be able to make money. They need this Copa Centenario. That's really, honestly, if you look at it this way, the only way the Conmebol can retaliate against the Americans or the USSF is by canceling Copa America in 2016, and that's not gonna happen. That's simply, they're just not gonna give away that money just to get, I got you back. Nope.
By the way, I know that they announced the stadiums for that. Why on earth aren't they moving heaven and earth to play in Miami? Miami is like the South American capital of North America. How could they not want to play in Miami?
Well, aren't the sports teams pretty, or the sports fans pretty apathetic about their teams over there? I mean, at least it looks like they're. I'm sorry, what was that?
Maybe the white people are, but have you been to Miami? Miami is this massive melting pot of the Americas. It's got everything.
You know what? It's because Cuba is not in the Copa America, so that's
there's 500,000 South Americans that live in Miami too. There's everything.
I would say aren't they going to build a new stadium?
Well, that's years down the road, but they have the Pro Players Stadium, which is where the Dolphins play, and they have that stadium where the Marlins play. And that's indoor and air conditioned, and in June with Miami it would be sometimes I don't understand these decisions that are made. How could they not?
Well, keep in mind that one of the cities that had an MLS team before, and
but that's MLS. This is South American countries.
I know, but when
was the last time you were in Miami? Who's been to Miami? Surely some of y'all have been to Miami.
I lived in Miami. It sucks. It's terrible. God-forsaken city. I mean that with the truest. Just, it's terrible. It's a terrible city.
It is a little sleazy.
I'm sorry. It was a little.
But Miami is the port of entry for South America into the U.S. There's
Yes.
Hundreds of thousands of South Americans.
But who? But I mean, are Brazilians going to go watch Peru? I mean, are they going to
In
watch?
Miami?
Yeah.
No, because there's enough Peruvians to fill the stadium. That's my point.
Not.
There's enough of everything to fill the stadium there.
Well, I mean, honestly, I would venture
And yes,
to
I
say
think they would.
Colombia would most likely play in Florida because there's a giant population of Colombians in the Miami area
But
anyway.
my point is that there are no games in Florida. There's nothing in Florida. It's
That's all right.
beyond idiotic.
Nobody. But they suck, man. Miami sucks. And I'm sorry if anybody's listening from Miami. I'm sorry, but I lived there and it was the worst time of my life. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. I'm sorry.
Can you care
I'm
to
sorry,
elaborate
man.
What made it so bad?
My sister lives there. He likes it hard.
I don't know, man. I moved there to go to school when I was 18, and I don't know. Maybe I wasn't ready for it. It was a big change from the Northeast, but I just did not like it at all. And I can actually see why soccer isn't taking off, or at least the prospect of a professional soccer team doesn't take off there, because it's not a soccer town. Despite the fact there are a lot of South Americans that live there, it's just not. It's really just not a soccer town at all.
I honestly think I honestly think Orlando is going to host Orlando is going to host it, but here my impression of Miami sports is, and in fact I remember seeing a Real Sports, Real Sports has covered Miami in the stadiums, and there's just a sporting culture a couple times, and one of the things that Miami does is that it seems like they treat sports kind of like a social event, and not necessarily, they don't really get the fanaticals, the ones that are going to be there through thick and thin. Like when the Miami Heat and stuff like that. I mean, they had, more people were going into the bars, over there in their stadium and stuff, rather than sitting on their in the seats and watching the game. I think they're better places to host games than Miami. I mean, because right now, because you have Seattle, you have Santa Clara, you have Pasadena, you have Glendale, you have Houston, you have Orlando, you have Chicago, you have Philadelphia, you have Rutherford, or New Jersey, New York, and you have Foxborough. So I mean, if any city is more deserving, it's Dallas, than Orlando.
Orlando's near Bradenton, which is like the U.S. youth soccer.
Yeah, it's because of Disney and all the other amusement parks, and the fact that it has this huge airport.
Oh man, that's
Orlando does seem like a much better fit for a potential venue for.
You have to look at it as they have hotel space, yada yada yada. So yeah, Orlando fits the bill just because of its tourist industry.
Well, they've had a pretty good start to the MLS season with their team there. I think they averaged something around 32,000 people per game at the Citrus Bowl. But I mean, compared to Miami, I think it's a better fit. I'm with you though. It's a little surprising that for this Copa America, Miami was not selected as one of the venues. It's surprising, but it's also not in a way.
I was surprised San Diego wasn't chosen. I mean,
yeah, but they can't play Qualcomm.
You could have.
I mean, that place is a toilet. It's a toilet.
Oh well, I guess. I mean, that's true. It is a toilet.
Yeah.
I work across the street from it. It is.
I mean, it's
there you go.
Toilet. I just figured that it'd be easy to fill up a stadium, though.
It's true.
I mean, who cares if it is a toilet bowl? I mean, you're still gonna have plenty. I mean, you're not gonna do without at all. And obviously, it's a great town, and then you could bring in people from Mexico that are in TJ. So I just thought, I was hoping that San Diego would get a.
Well, Pasadena's not too far from you, though, right?
No, I'll be going to that. I'll be going to that. I'll be making the drive.
I mean, honestly, between the Rose Bowl and the Murph.
Oh, it's not even comparable, but I think there's room for both.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad about Seattle. And I did hear that they're gonna do a much better job about for the fields that don't have natural surface, they're going to do a much better job about getting the playing surface there, much more ahead of time, so that it actually takes and it doesn't. They're not just sitting it on.
Are we thanking the feminazis for that? I mean I'm sorry, the women.
Yeah, Rapinoe got injured.
You know what? Though, good for them, though. I mean, I mean, pity that nobody else has thought to do it. Also, I mean, it's their careers that they're risking on playing on crappy surfaces.
Question: when Vela and Giovanni and Villaluz, and then when they won their 2005 Under-17 World Cup, what was the playing surface in most of those stadiums over there in Peru?
The artificial turf.
Now they're 17. Now, if we weren't worried about kids, come on.
Well, I feel like in a way that they're more lenient when it comes to choosing venues for the Youth World Cups. I feel like if anything, if CONMEBOL had their quote unquote their shit in order, and you're gonna have to probably edit that out, Beto. But if they had, if they knew what they were doing, they would have stipulated that in their contract that whatever stadiums or whatever cities were going to host, it would have to be natural grass. Even some of the stadiums like MetLife Stadium here in New York, I'm not entirely sure it's natural grass. I think they would just roll out. I think if the grass rolls out, they have the turf with the.
Boring.
Sorry, I didn't mean that.
No, go ahead. No.
Oh wow.
What happened was my thing fell asleep. Please continue.
No, I was just saying that I'm not entirely sure that's going to be a deal breaker when you're looking at
that's what they said. They said that they're going to, for the fields that have the field turf. But a couple of points. They are going to put natural surface on, and they're going to do it weeks ahead of time instead of Tuesday like they do when Mexico and the U.S. team play in San Antonio.
So it'll have more time to settle, I guess.
Exactly. It'll grow and it'll firm up and it'll be just much.
You'll be able to roll it and smoke it and everything.
The whole bit. As far as the women, and this is something that I've never understood. I bet you they've played on the fake stuff their entire careers, from kids all the way up.
Yeah.
And when they announced the venues in Canada, they were saying, well, some of those have.
I know.
Why did you say anything when they announced it 3 years ago? Not a month before the World Cup.
I mean, I don't understand why they're complaining about this fake stuff. I mean, it's not like well,
it wasn't as much the fake stuff as it was the fact that the seams were. It looked like the vet. That's what they were complaining about. Funny
well, there are
story.
studies now that claim that
at the vet.
they have studies now that claim that the black pellets from the field turf could potentially be linked to cancer. So that's something that's gaining traction right now. Not sure what the validity of those studies are or how thorough they are, but I'm not sure it'll make a difference with this tournament coming up. But you never know.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about that.
Oh my God.
All right, gentlemen.
Well, that's that.
All right, let's talk about the predictions. Who's gonna take the final?
Pumas, of course.
The biggest Pumas fan in the world.
Yes.
Tigres is going to take
John.
it. Pumas could win this if their defense steps up even more. But again, because I said it before the Tigres semifinal, if Gignac came up cold, which he sort of did, his teammates would have to pick up their productivity, and they sort of did. Aquino played better, but it'll have to be the case even more for the Pumas game. So we'll see if Aquino can have a good game. Dam has sort of been quiet. You have to bring in.
Dam's going to be.
Alvarez.
I don't think he's going to play.
Is he hurt for both legs, or is
they
he out?
scoped his knee, and that is usually not good. But you never know.
Well, Alvarez was playing better, so he might come in and light things up. So.
Right. Joel, what do you think?
Well, I'll give my prediction since you.
Go.
Oh, go ahead.
Tigres. I could see Tigres taking it. I think the cause will go their favor. FMF will reward Tuca for that Confederations Cup.
It must be a sad place for Joel to like just watch soccer and just think that everything is just predetermined.
It is, dude.
For Joel, soccer's like wrestling.
It's
well,
it's like when you find out Santa's not real.
No, I know. I know exactly. I hear the cynicism in your voice, and it is kind of sad because I still you want
to believe.
Oh yeah, man. I'm what is this? What is this saying? Ignorance is bliss, dude.
Yeah, I think once you see behind the curtain, you can't unsee, dude. It ruins it.
Wow.
With that, I think based solely on what happens on the field, I'm going to go with Tigres.
All right. Perrin and Euro, you said you're going Pumas all the way.
I just want to add that I see a lot of Guiñac fanboyism. I understand you guys want the Euros to look at us, whatever, but in the end, it's going to be Pumas.
Damn.
Wow. Christian, what do you?
I'm thinking Tigres will take it. I think it's a good matchup for Tuca, and like I said, I don't expect a super thrilling game or a series, but I got my money on Tigres. But the thing is, I was wrong about America, so I'm perfectly willing to come back on here and eat some crow if that's what it takes. But either way, I think either team will be a deserved winner based on what they've done throughout the year, or at least the semester. So I think we all win, except for Ronnie, obviously, but we all win.
The salt loses.
Well, what was the quote that Vergara said about America? They still have some success to do in eating sushi over there in Japan.
When does that start anyway?
I think next week, early next week.
Ronnie, are you peppering the Angus?
Yes, I am.
For the eventual game against Barca.
So next week, is everybody going to be Todos Somos America or what?
I have a question. If America makes it to the final and they beat Barcelona, is this a bigger accomplishment than the Sudamericana?
No, I don't think so.
I would say yes too.
I would say yes.
Not bigger than Libertadores, but more than Sudamericana, yeah.
Barca takes their players to this tournament, so they dominate it.
No, and that's the point that I was about to make is because before they didn't really care about this, but then when Barcelona won the six cups, it's like they were bragging about.
I think when Porto beat them, wasn't it Porto that beat them? I think that's kind of like one of the when they started paying a little bit more attention to the competition and giving it just greater importance.
Well, it used to have importance as the Intercontinental Cup.
Yeah, it's just when people were bragging about the 6 cups, we won 6 cups, in a season and stuff like that. It's like, if you weren't, they were bragging about it. So it's like, it's kind of like before, like, we didn't really care about the Champions League, the CONCACAF, a couple years back. We didn't. And it seems like that's, it's gotten a little bit more popular, and granted, it helps when it's Mexican versus Mexican on Mexican. I don't know.
Are you gonna want Sambuesa to stomp on Neymar?
What's that?
Are you gonna want Sambuesa to stomp on Neymar?
I think it'll be the other way around. I think it'll be the other way around. I think
Güemes is not in the lineup, man.
Yeah, but
so there's not gonna be no stopping on Neymar.
Chinese team first, and that's no guarantee.
What's that?
America has got to get by that Chinese fiend first, and there's no guarantee.
You know what, John? They're going to break the curse. I think America's going to rep. I think America's going to rep the area. They're going. This is the
Scolari,
first time we actually see a decent showing from a team.
Scolari, we know Scolari. We know the way he plays.
Well, not only that though, but like I think more so than anything, this is like the first time, at least I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, but at least first time I remember in recent memory where the team that's going is actually in pretty decent shape.
Is it a terrible slump?
Seems like everybody goes there like having just played, coming off terrible form, and America's, despite having lost, they're still pretty good. So I'm hopeful that they won't embarrass themselves.
Okay.
So Ronnie, who's going to take the Tigres Pumas title? Since 1978.
Well, keep in mind, they're making a lot of references to that, that those great teams from 77, 78, whatever, with when they had Cabinho, they had Hugo, they had what's the Muñantes?
Pato Cleti, Tomás Boy.
Yeah, Pato Cleti, you have like that. Now the difference is that Tigres is good. Now Pumas doesn't really have those any of those like emblematic players.
No, they don't.
So I don't really think it's a fair comparison because both of those teams, and going back in that era, those players were emblematic then. I don't.
Well, they were the strongest teams in the league. Them and Cruz Azul. It was like.
Yeah. So I mean, right now, I think Tuca's just had a phenomenal year, and I think he'll wrap it up with this. It'd also be nice to for Gignac to win because I think if him winning, I think more of his buddies in Europe will like, hey, maybe I should go over there.
As far as obviously being a Pumas fan, I want Pumas to win, but the reality is that I just don't think they have the firepower, and Tigres is going to be a much more disciplined team than what they played with.
Tigres has good firepower. But the thing is,
that's my point, is that they have way too much firepower. It's much more than Pumas has. However, it's Tuca, and he's not gonna do a 6-2-1 formation and press.
Yeah, for Pumas to win.
It's gonna be 0-2-0. So it's gonna be a two-legged final. There's no question.
You don't think Tuca's gonna bunker?
No.
That's their downfall. I think they will lose if that's the case. Because
No, they're not going to do that.
Okay, well that's gonna be an awesome final to watch.
My point is, both teams are just going to play, and they're both very similar. So they're going to be tight games. It's not going to be where I think that Tigres has a huge advantage is that they have better goal scorers, and in theory they should win. But it's going to be a very tight series, and it's going to come down to the second half of the second game. It's not going to be decided in the first leg. It's going to be decided in the second leg, and it's going to be close. And so
what was that?
We'll see what happens.
I think it will be a great series too. I think Pumas will pull through. They're gonna do great.
From your mouth to God's ears, but I'm proud. I hate to say that I think Tigres is gonna win, and the more part, they're a good team. They're fun to watch, and I'm like y'all said, it's be a great way for Tuca to end his year because he's had a pretty good run. I really enjoyed that. I'm not gonna lie. Having Tuca as the national team coach, I thought it was great.
I think personally, this is the reason why I like La Liguilla. They really weed out the trash and put the real teams that are gonna be the champions. That's the reason why if there was no Liguilla Mexican football, I probably wouldn't watch as much as I watched today.
Well, the Liguilla is fun. There's no doubt. All right, boys. Let's wrap it up. We're done. I guess we should do our next one after the first leg. It seems to make no sense.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Yeah, so let's do that.
So Thursday?
Thursday. Is it at 10 Eastern or 9 Eastern?
I think it's 9 o'clock Eastern time.
Is it?
Perfect.
That won't be so bad then. Fair enough. Well, gentlemen, it was always a pleasure. Thank you for joining us. And this has been Los Cachirules. We'll be back on Thursday after the first leg, where hopefully Pumas didn't get embarrassed too badly. But, as always, good talking to you guys.
They're gonna get raped.
Well,
Dang.
hope that doesn't happen.
And I hope the ref whistle's a rape whistle. That doesn't, blow.
Rape whistle. What does that sound like? Because I never heard of it. Oh wait, I'm not an America fan. That's why.
Oh man. All right.
I'm salty right now.
That's what it sounds like. Oh, okay, thank you.
All right.
Professor, without knowing precisely what the danger is, would you say it's time for our viewers to crack each other's heads open and feast on the goo inside? Yes, I would.
Great stuff, man. Great
All
stuff.
right, so this has been Los Cachirules. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you guys again on Thursday.
That's it.
Thanks, later.
Work under these conditions.
Talk to you guys later.
Later, guys.
Later, guys.
See ya. See ya.